Om Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jeevanam Kavibhirididam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatam Bhuvigrananti te Purita Jana. O Lord, your words like sweet nectar refresh the afflicted. Your words, which poets have sung in verses, vanquish the sins of the worldly. Blessed are they who hear of you, and blessed indeed are they who speak of you. How great is their reward. We are continuing chapter 32. So much is there in this chapter. Sri Ramakrishna is visiting the Sinthi Brahmo Samaj, their semi-annual celebration, and he is talking with the Brahmo devotees. So some people are asking questions, so Sri Ramakrishna is replying them. Earlier we have seen one of the devotees, a subject, asking whether they had to renounce the world to realize God. Sri Ramakrishna said no. From the world we can realize God, living in the world. Then he is got another question. Subject: Sir, we are householders. How long should we perform our worldly duties? How long? Householders means people with family, job, everything. So how long should we perform our duties? Master: Surely you have duties to perform. You must bring up your children, support your wife, provide for her in case of your death. If you don't, then I shall call you unkind. Sages like Shukadeva had compassion. He who has no compassion is no man. Subject: How long should one support one's children? Master: As long as they have not reached their majority. When the chick becomes a full-grown bird and can look after itself, then the mother bird pecks it and doesn't allow it to come near her. All laugh. Subject: What's the householder's duty to his wife? Master: You should give her spiritual advice and support her during your lifetime, and provide for her livelihood after your death, if she is a chaste wife. So these are the duties of householders. The Brahmo devotees, they were all householders, mostly, other than except the few young men who were there. So stage of householder is the second stage in the 4 stages that Hinduism speak of. The first one is the student stage, then the householder, then the retired, and finally the ascetic. So in the early stage, as a child, the child is sent to the teacher's home in the olden times, what I speaking of, Gurukula, and they learned everything. And once finished the studies, by the age of 24, they finish the studies, they come back. They got a choice. If they don't want to enter the worldly life, they can become ascetic straight away, or they marry, set up family, earn wealth. So they're called householders. And this stage of householder is the pillar of society. You have to remember, in society at that time is different from modern society. And especially when what Sri Ramakrishna is speaking about here is, at that time, the ladies never went for job. So the men were breadwinners. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna says you should support your wife and children. And society was not a welfare society. They didn't have government supporting people who didn't have a job, no unemployment benefit or single parent, then nothing also things are there. The householders supported the students. And in the early days, when the children went to the teacher's house, they didn't pay any fees. The teacher looked after them, gave them their boarding, everything was done by the teacher. All the teacher's income was when the students finish their study, they give a Guru Dakshina offering to the teacher. Or sometimes wealthy people may give some donation to them. Otherwise, they didn't have. They lead a very frugal life, and live as far as their personal life is concerned. But they looked after the students, and those who are the people who are supporting the teacher, then the householders. So householders supported the students, and then the retired people. They say, and when your children becomes parents, then it's time for you to retire from the world. Reduce your activities, retire, and spend more time thinking about God. Now it's all changed. Now grandparents have got big duty looking after grandchildren. So, early days, it was not like that. Once your children are married, then it's time for you to retire from the world. And finally, the ascetic. All the three stages, the student, the retired, the ascetic, all were supported by the householders. So the householders were known as the pillar of society. And it was a sacred duty. And it is called ashrama. Early one is student, brahmacharya ashrama, grahastha ashrama, vanaprastha ashrama, sannyasa ashrama. All are called ashramas. They are the sacred duties it was. And the householder has five debts to repay. Debts to the teachers, debt to the sages, to the gods, debt to our ancestors, debt to other human beings and other living beings. So 5 debts, what are they? To the gods, by doing worship. Sages, by studying the scriptures. Ancestors, by begetting children, and other human beings looking after your relatives, friends, or whoever is in need. And other beings looking after other animals, the environment, everything. So these are the duties of the householder. So all these are sacred duties allotted to the householder. That's why it's called a sacred duty. It's an ashrama. Here Sri Ramakrishna is saying, yes, you have your duties to perform. You must bring up your children, support the wife, provide for her in case of your death. Once, if you suddenly die, what will happen to the wife? So you must provide for her. If you don't, then I'll call you unkind. Sages like Shukadeva had compassion. He who has no compassion is no man at all, no human being. Then how long should we support the children? As long as they have not reached their majority. That's once they have grown up, they can support themselves, earning, then there is no need for the parents to support the children, look after them. Then Sri Ramakrishna is giving the example of the birds. When the chick becomes a full-grown bird and can look after itself, then the mother bird pecks it and does not allow it to come near it. Now, the next question is, what is the duty to the wife? You have to remember this, all men devotees are asking the questions. We don't get any record of what Sri Ramakrishna gave, the advice, Sri Ramakrishna's advice to women, because it's recorded by Yam. And at that time, the women did not sit with the men in front of in the ordinary days. When they came to Sri Ramakrishna, the men devotees left the room, usually unless members of the same family. Master, you should give her spiritual advice and support her during your lifetime. So it is a duty of the husband to support the wife on her spiritual path and provide for her during your lifetime. Support her during lifetime and provide for her livelihood after your death, if she is a chaste wife. Then what about the people who are completely dedicated to God, intoxicated with love of God? What happened? What about those people, those householders? There's an exception. But if you are intoxicated with knowledge of God, then you have no more duties to perform. Then God himself will think about your morrow. And if you yourself cannot do so, God himself will think about your family if you are intoxicated with him. If a landlord dies leaving behind a minor son, then a guardian appointed by the court takes charge of the son. These are all points of law. You know them because this is a subject who is asking the question. So Sri Ramakrishna says, you know all these points of law. If you are intoxicated with the love of God, you cannot look after your daily duties. You can perform your daily duties. You cannot look after the family. Don't have to worry. God himself will look after them. God will take the responsibility. If you are completely dedicated to God, you are intoxicated with love of God, knowledge of God, you can't do anything. Your whole mind is thinking about God. Then don't worry, God will look after them. God will look after all your things. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, Yoga Kshemam Vahamiham. For such people, I'll provide what they lack and I will look after what they have. And he actually says, I'll carry myself, I myself will carry and provide for them. We have one example it's not just about the example I'm not going to give, is not a person who is householder, but in one incident in life of Swami Vivekananda, he is completely dedicated to God, depending on God for everything. Once, when he was going around as the wandering monk in India, he never carried money. If somebody bought a ticket, then he will travel by train. Otherwise, he walk. That was how it used to. So once he was traveling in North India, somebody bought a ticket and put on the first class compartment. Swamiji was sitting there. It's hot. It was summer. He didn't have anything with him. In the same compartment, there was a merchant. So he had his food, water, everything nicely with him. And now and then he will, in the hot summer, now and then he will open his water bottle and drink the water. And then looking at this young monk without suffering in the heat, he said, now look at me. I work hard, earn money, so I enjoy. And you think you are given up everything for God? Now suffer? He didn't say anything. He kept quiet. Then they reached both of them got down at the same railway station. And being the rich man, he could sit under the platform and in the shade. And there was no other place. It's a wandering man, penniless person. The porter said, no, you can't sit here. You go out. Go out. So he had to sit under a tree in the sun. Not much shade. And this man in the shade, he spread his mat, opened the packets of and all the food spread out. And while eating, he went on teasing. Look how I am enjoying my food. And you think that you have given up everything for God. Now you suffer. Swamiji kept quiet without making any respond without replying, sat there quietly. After a few minutes, a man entered the platform. He had a mat under his arm. In one hand, he had a big basket, and another hand, he had a earthen jar full of water. He looked around around the platform, saw Swamiji, straight away went and said, please come and have your meal, have your food. I have brought food for you. Swamiji said, I don't know you. You don't know me. I have never seen you. You must have mistaken me for somebody else. No, you are the person I'm looking for. What do you mean? Then he started his story. He said he has a shop where he prepares sweets and sells. And he was, after his noon meal, he was having a nap. When in his dream, he saw his chosen deity, Sri Rama, came up to him and said, get up. My devotee is suffering. You prepare some food for him and take. He just turned around and dream. Then he was pushed. Sri Rama came and pushed me. He said, get up. I'm asking you to get up. May prepare something quickly. So he prepared quickly, made some puris, and he had fresh sweets that were made in the morning. He took that and took some cold water and a mat, everything. And he actually says, Rama showed me who his devotee is. I saw you in my dream. So even the face of the devotee was shown. Swamiji's face was shown. So that's why Sri Krishna says, Yoga Kshemam Vahamyam, I carry. Whatever you lack, whatever you lack, I'll provide. And what you have, I'll protect. If you are completely dedicated to me, intoxicated with love of God, you don't have any more duties. There's another disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. He, Swami Trigunatitananda, he was very adventurous. He always get into all sorts of adventures. One day he was going in the Himalaya areas. There was crossing a stream at night. It's dangerous, mountain stream. But he thought, he will quickly go and then proceed on his journey. And there was moonlight was there, and as he stepped onto the small rickety bridge, suddenly a patch of cloud came and the moon was covered. Pitch dark. You don't know. If he put one false step, he will be falling into the stream and the strong current will take him away. He's just stood still. What to do? Don't know how to proceed. Go forward or backward? He can't do. Suddenly he heard somebody saying, follow me. And in a minute, he found himself on this dry ground. We may see this is a miracle, but if you are depending on God, God will help, protect us. So that Sri Ramakrishna is giving this example. If a landlord dies leaving behind a minor son, then a guardian appointed by the court takes charge of the son. Somebody will look after him, the child. Vijay, precious words. God himself carries on his shoulders all the responsibilities of a person who thinks of him with single-minded devotion and is mad with divine love. God himself carries on his shoulders all the responsibilities. We don't have to worry what will happen to them. God will look after. But it has to be single-minded devotion. And just because you pretend that you are devoted, that won't do. It has to be real devotion, fully dedicated to God. You are not giving up purposely. But because of your love for God, you can't perform any duties, then God will look after, himself will take up the responsibility. Ah, alas, when shall I have that state of mind? That is Vijay Krishna Goswami, one of the leaders of Brahmo Samaj, but he was again a great devotee. How lucky they are who feel that way. Trilokya. Trilokya Sanyal is another Brahmo devotee, and you can see in the gospel many times we come across his name. He could sing beautifully, and Sri Ramakrishna used to ask him to. Sri Ramakrishna used to make him sing. Is it ever possible, sir, to have true knowledge of God while living in the world? Can one realize God here? Master with a smile. Why do you worry? You are enjoying both treacle and refined sugar. You are living in the world with your mind in God. Isn't that true? Why shouldn't a man realize God in the world? Certainly he can. Trilokya. What are the signs of a householder having attained knowledge? Now, what are the signs of a householder having attained knowledge of God? Master. His tears will flow, the hair of his body will stand on end. No sooner does he hear the sweet name of God than the hair on his body stands on end from sheer delight, and tears roll down his cheeks. A man cannot get rid of body consciousness as long as he is attached to worldly things and loves woman and gold. As he becomes less and less attached to the worldly things, he approaches nearer and nearer to knowledge of self. He also becomes less and less conscious of his body. He attains self-knowledge when his worldly attachment totally disappears. Then he realizes that body and soul are two separate things. It is very difficult to separate with a knife the kernel of coconut from the shell before the milk inside has dried up. When the milk dries up, the kernel rattles inside the shell. At that time, it loosens itself from the shell. Then the fruit is called a dry coconut. The sign of a man having realized God is that he has become like a dry coconut. He has become utterly free from the consciousness that he is the body. He does not feel happy or unhappy with the happiness or unhappiness of the body. He does not seek the comforts of the body. He roams about in the world as a Jivan Mukta, one liberated in life. So Sri Ramakrishna is saying how you can recognize a person who has realized God, who has got knowledge of God. What are the signs? His tears will flow, the hair of his body stand on end. As soon as the person hears the name of God, glories of God, he becomes so happy, full of bliss, full of delight, that tears flow from his eyes. And the hair on the body stands on end. But there is one danger in this. When Sri Ramakrishna speaks about this, and we can see Sri Ramakrishna experience this. When you read the gospel or life of Sri Ramakrishna, you can see it's an daily occurrence. Sri Ramakrishna going into ecstasy. But hearing these words of Sri Ramakrishna and seeing Sri Ramakrishna going into ecstasy, people thought it was so easy. And especially when in Sri Ramakrishna's room we read the devotional singing is going on, and then we can see some of them acting as though they are in ecstasy. As though they are in ecstasy. We'll say people go into ecstasy. They weep, some of them laugh. In one incident, there is Sri Ramakrishna was sick and the doctor had come to see him. Sri Ramakrishna asked Narendra to sing a song. And Narendra sang a song, and M describes the room was surcharged with spirituality. Everybody palpably feel the spiritual atmosphere. And the devotees present there, some of them started laughing, some of them started weeping, shedding tears, some of them were crying, mother, mother, because it was a song on Divine Mother. And some of them crying, mother, mother, and rolling on the ground. And M says, it looked as though a group of mad people have collected in the room. And some of them went into deep meditation. After some time, after quite some time, everybody came down to normal consciousness. And then later Sri Ramakrishna was asked, who had real ecstasy today? Sri Ramakrishna thought for a few minutes and said, only two people. Latu, that's one of the young disciples, and younger Narayan. Both of the young disciples. Latu later became Swami Adbhutananda. What about the others then? We see them singing, laughing, shedding tears. Their emotions rise up. If the mind is not strong, with devotional singing, it's very easy for the emotions to rise up. You become very sentimental. That's not spirituality. That's not ecstasy. It is the result of long practice. Just because we're hearing a few devotional songs, you shed tears. That's not ecstasy. Often people mistake like that. And we can see Narendra, some of the young disciples were feeling bad that they are not having ecstasy. And hearing Narendra took them to task. This is not real. You these people are having, you think that they are real ecstasies? Then Narendra really made investigation and found that some of these household disciples or devotees who are having ecstasies or experiencing ecstasies in the presence of Sri Ramakrishna had practiced at home. Really practice how to bring it out, or forcibly bringing it. It's not real ecstasy. So what is the sign of a real improvement or progress in spiritual life? Swamiji says, develop your character. Have a strong, noble character. Not shedding tears is not the proof of your spiritual progress. Sri Ramakrishna says, tears will flow, but that is really flowing, not practice at home and then shedding tears. No, that's not that way. That's what is a fake, artificial. That's not real ecstasy. A man cannot get rid of body consciousness as long as he is attached to worldly things and loves woman and gold. As he becomes less and less attached to worldly things, he approaches nearer and nearer to knowledge of self. See, that is one of the signs. If you are getting closer to God, then your attachment to worldly things become lesser and lesser. You are not forcibly snatching it away, pulling it out, the attachment to worldly things. As you go closer to God, that attachment to worldly things drops off little by little. As Sri Ramakrishna says, as you go towards the east, west becomes further and further away from you. He also becomes less and less conscious of his body. Can we ever forget our body? We are always conscious of our body. But a person who is becoming closer and closer to God becomes less and less conscious of the body. They have become free from the idea that he is the body. We hear how Trilinga Swami, a great saint in Benares, when Sri Ramakrishna visited him, he said he's a great yogi, and so said to have lived for about 300 years or something like that. when Sri Ramakrishna later says, after in the hot sand on the bank of the Ganges, he used to lie down in the summer. It's very, very extremely hot. And he just lay down in the hot summer on the hot sand. He has no consciousness of the body. It's not some sages that we don't know, but even later people I haven't seen, but I have heard other people who have seen them. Swami Madhavananda, who was the 9th president of the Ramakrishna Mutt and Mission, he had eczema on his legs. So he couldn't sit on the with cross-legged or anything. So he used to stretch his legs on a banana leaf. And when some of our Matajis went to see him, salute him, he was a great scholar. He was a great scholar. He has written, translated the Brahma Sutras and everything into English. They went to salute him. He said, be careful, there is something. There is something, as though that feet, the legs with the eczema belongs to somebody else, not his. There is something, be careful, there is something. He's not conscious, he's not, no identification, less and less identification with the body. And what is he doing? He is proofreading his translation. As he becomes less and less attached to worldly things, he approaches nearer and nearer to knowledge of self. He also becomes less and less conscious of the body. He attains self-knowledge when his worldly attachment totally disappears. Then he realizes that body and soul are two separate things. Now we identify ourselves with the body. Actually, we are that infinite Atman, the self. But we identify both. Both are mixed together for us. But when that knowledge of self comes, self-knowledge comes, or God realization comes, then we realize they are two separate things. The sign of a man who has then Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of the coconut. When coconut that when there is water, it's very hard to scoop out the pulp or meat out of the coconut shell with the knife. But when the water dries off, then the pulp comes out from the shell. And that's what we call dry coconut. Then it rattles. If you shake the coconut, you can hear the sound. It's rattling inside because it has engaged itself from the shell of the coconut. A man who has the sign of man having attained God, realized God, is that he becomes like a dry coconut. He has become utterly free from the consciousness that he is the body. He does not feel happy or unhappy with the happiness and unhappiness of the body. He does not seek the comforts of the body. He roams about in the world as a Jivan Mukta, one liberated in life. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna, in the 2nd chapter, Sri Krishna gives the characteristics of a person of steady wisdom. That is the characteristics of a person who has realized God. What are they? He says, the person who has realized, a person of steady wisdom who has got self-knowledge, he is given up all desires and is satisfied in the bliss coming from the higher self. He or she does not need any external things for happiness. He is satisfied in the higher self, bliss that comes from higher self. Nothing external attracts him. There is no worldly thing can have any attraction for such a person. And when happiness or misery come, is unperturbed. Nothing disturbs the calmness of the mind. External things does not affect at all. external things can be pleasant, unpleasant, can bring in happiness or unhappiness, but that person's mind is steady, unperturbed by any of those things. And such a person is free from attachment. No attachment to worldly things. All the attraction is only towards the higher self. And so, because he's free from attachment, he's also free from fear and anger. Why are we afraid? Why so much of fear we have, so much of anger we have? Because of attachment. If you don't have attachment, there's nothing to fear, nothing to get angry. As Sri Krishna says in the Gita, again in the 2nd chapter only, he says, anger comes from desire. When the desires are obstructed, then anger turns into anger. And so when there is free from and desires, because of attachment, free from attachment, there is no fear, no anger. And such person has got complete control over the senses. That whenever he or she wants, he can withdraw all the senses from the sense objects. And the example Sri Krishna gives is the tortoise. When the tortoise senses any danger, what does it do? It just withdraws its limbs into the shell. Then whatever you do, the limbs won't come out. The person of knowledge, self-knowledge, can withdraw the senses like that, like the tortoise. And stimuli from the external world, from sense objects, can come into the person continuously, but it won't disturb the calmness of the mind. The mind won't be disturbed at all. There won't be any ripples on the mind lake. And again, Sri Krishna gives the example, rivers flow into the ocean. In, say, rainy season, rivers are flooded, so much of water falls in the ocean, but ocean never overflows. In summer, rivers dry up, but ocean doesn't dry up. It remains same. These are some of the signs of a person of self-knowledge. And again, how are we to know whether the person has, I have attained knowledge of God or not? Vedanta says there are two ways. You know yourself, you check yourself, and others can check. So Samvedya, that is one, the person who has attained knowledge can check and understand. And other one is Parasamvedya, by external marks, signs, others can know. But there is external signs that can be, doubts can be there. As I said earlier, people can pretend, as in the case of earlier Narendra found out that some of these devotees were practicing ecstasy. So that is not, others may think that they are having real ecstasy, but they themselves know that's not real ecstasy. So Parasamvedya, that's by recognizing by external signs, there can be a mistake, there can be doubt. But so Samvedya, when you yourself know, there can't be any doubt, because you know what you are experiencing. You don't have to prove to anybody. You know yourself, and that you can understand through merciless self-analysis. You have to analyze what is the feeling that I'm having. Is it real love of God? Am I shedding tears because of love of God, or just emotional effervescence? Has my character improved? Have I become more selfless? Have I become more compassionate? Have I become more, let's say, loving for other, more loving? You check yourself. You don't have to shed tears to show others. In the Bhagavatam, it speaks of 3 signs, how to check yourself whether you have attained knowledge of God or love of God. The first one is devotion to God increases. Then detachment from sense objects. Love of God increases. The attraction to sense objects becomes less and less. And third, the person will have a firm conviction about truth. Truth means the ultimate truth. There's no more doubt or hesitation about that. Everybody can, we all can check that ourselves. Have I got more and more love for God? Have my attachment to things of the world has become reduced? Have I got any doubt about the ultimate truth? If all the answer is yes, then we can say, really understand, oh, I am progressing on a spiritual path. I am getting closer and closer to the knowledge of God. And it further says, if a person derives a kind of satisfaction from within and feels spiritually strong, all doubts about the supreme reality is gone, then that spiritual experience is a genuine experience. Often we hear people are having all sorts of spiritual experiences. Now that everything is in print, online, we can hear all this, read all the scriptures about all the spiritual experiences, samadhi. People think that they are attaining samadhi, experiencing samadhi, experiencing ecstasy. Some days back, one young person came to see us, and then he was saying how he's experiencing samadhi. Samadhi is so easy to experience. Reading the books, you think that you are experiencing samadhi. Well, you can check yourself. Have you got satisfaction from within? Don't want any external objects to give you happiness? Feeling spiritually strong? And have got still doubts about God or supreme reality? Only if no more doubts. You are spiritually strong. You don't want anything from external world to satisfy you, give you happiness. Then we can say your experience is true, genuine. Otherwise, it may be a psychic experience or just an emotional upsurge. An emotional upsurge, if you don't have a basis, the more you go up, the deeper you fall down, because there is nothing to support you. And that is often the one danger with the devotional singing and other things. Emotions are raised, but you don't have a support, you don't have a basis to stand. So you go up, and then when it is finished after some time, you just fall down. And we see the person becoming more and more involved in worldly life. So it's better go steady, have a grounded in firm moral life, and then go forward. When you find, Sri Ramakrishna is continuing, when you find that the very mention of God's name brings tears to your eyes and makes your hair stand on end, then you will know that you have freed yourself from attachment to woman and gold and attain God. That is, you're free from attachment and you have realized God, then these things happened, not the other way around. If the matches are dry, you get a spark by striking only one of them. But if they are damp, you don't get a spark even if you strike 50. The matchstick is wet. You may strike and strike, you may exhaust the whole matchbox, but you won't get any light. You only waste matches. Similarly, if your mind is soaked in the pleasure of worldly things, in woman and gold, then God consciousness will not be kindled in you. You may try 1,000 times, but all your efforts will be futile. So if your mind is soaked in pleasures of the world, so first we have to get free ourselves from attachment to things of the world. Then you will be going closer and closer to God. But no sooner does attachment to worldly pleasure dry up than the spark of God flashes forth. Now the question is, how do we get rid of attachment to worldly things? Attachment to the things of the world? That's the next question. Trilokya. What is the way to dry up the craving for worldly pleasure? Master. Pray to the Divine Mother with a longing heart. There are those who are strong willpower, they can do. Have a very strong willpower. I won't be attached to the things of the world. Whatever happens, no, I won't be attached to it. But just by saying it won't happen, mind has to be very, very strong. The mind can play a lot of tricks. You think that, oh, just once, I won't be attached. I will enjoy this pleasure just once. I won't be attached to it. But the mind says, I won't be attached. No, the next time you see, you want to enjoy that once more. Only once more. Once I enjoy it, won't do any harm. The mind will tell you. No, you are slow. You want to understand slowly, you are going down the way. On slippery slope, going down the path. So the safer path is prayer. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says, pray to the Divine Mother with a longing heart. It should be really sincere prayer, longing. You want to really get rid of the attachment to the worldly pleasures. Her vision dries up all craving for the world and completely destroys all attachment to woman and gold. It happens instantly if you think of her as your own mother. She is by no means a godmother. She is your own mother. See, the attachment to God should be there. And Sri Ramakrishna says, looking upon God as mother is very easy. When you want to pray to God, you have to have towards God one of the human relations. So in Hinduism, we speak about looking upon God as a child, as friend, as master, as father or mother, as your lover. You can have any of those relations towards God. These are the human relations that we are familiar with. So it's not very difficult to assume that relation towards God. But among all that, he says the best is looking upon God as mother, because mother's love is the most unselfish. Mother does not expect anything from the child. Even if the child is wicked, still the mother's love is still the same. That's why Shankaracharya says, Kuputro jayeta kuchidabi kumata na bhavati. There may be wicked children, but never a wicked mother. Mother always loves the children. So if we have love for God as mother, your attachment to worldly things will become reduced. She is by no means a godmother. She is your own mother. With a yearning heart, persist in your demands on her. Children can make any demands to mother. Then Sri Ramakrishna say, one of the Swamis who have written Holy Mother says in very interestingly or funnily, when the child father comes from home, from work, the child, the toddler goes up to him. The father is not happy to take the child on lap because he is tired. But then when father has rested, had his shower, has his meal, now he wants to take up the child on the lap and play. The child is not maybe sleepy. No, but it is the father's time. So it's according, as far as the father is concerned, according to father's time. But mother, whatever she is doing, when the child comes, mother takes on the lap. So as far as the mother is concerned, its child is the important one. Mother puts everything else out aside and takes the child on her lap. And child can make the demands on mother. What does the child do? Child scream at the top of the voice, and whatever my mother is doing, she stops and runs. She is your own mother. With a yearning heart, persist in your demands on her. Then Sri Ramakrishna gives an example. The child holds the skirt of its mother and begs a penny of her to buy a kite. Perhaps the mother is gossiping with her friends. At first, she refuses to give the penny and says to the child, "No, you can't have it. Your daddy had asked me not to give you money. When he comes home, I'll ask him about it. You'll get into trouble if you play with the kite now." The child begins to cry and will not give up his demand. Then the mother says to her friends, "Excuse me a minute, let me pacify the child." Immediately, she unlocks the cash box with a click and throws the child a penny. So if you want from God, go on demanding from God, because you can make your demand, you can force your demand on God if you think of God as your mother. You too must force your demand on Divine Mother. She will come to you without fail. And Sri Ramakrishna says you can even force demanding, like but said he says one example of how the son of Madhur Babu forced they were properties from the rental place, they were taken to the estate, and he with some people waylaid them and took all the money because it's mothers. You see, nobody can take the child to court. The mother cannot take the child to court because child has got every day right to take mother's things. You too must force your demand on Divine Mother. She will come to you without fail. We'll stop here. So let us try to practice that, force our demand on Divine Mother, saying, no, you must dry up our attachment to the worldly things. Thank you.
This coming Friday night, we'll have the discussion, spiritual evening, led by Gayatriprana. Next Sunday, we've got a very special event, the Guru Purnima celebration. And we're going to be having as a guest, sharing his Vedanta memoirs, Russell Atkinson, who's a long-time member and devotee, going way back to the 1950s. He was one of the pioneers of teaching yoga and natural health and Eastern philosophy. You'll have some interesting stories to share from all these decades. And we will now conclude with listening to a guided meditation by revered Pravrajika Ajayaprana Mataji. We have donation plate there, donation box off the back.
And follow me silently. Lord and Sovereign Master of the universe, in these few moments of silence, my heart yearns to commune with Thee. Please open my heart to the showers of the rays of Your grace, that I may feel and experience Thy love and compassion. O Master of my life, Light of the universe, may I be able to see You shining in my heart ever and ever. The heart offered is the heart accepted. This heart of mine that I have offered at Your feet is waiting, waiting, waiting for Your vision. Closing the eyes, look into the center of the heart, the spiritual heart. The spiritual heart is the dwelling place of God in our physical system. It belongs to God. All other parts of the body are in our control. But the spiritual heart belongs to the Lord. When the heart is full of worldly concerns, the tumultuous waves of worldliness hide the face of God from our vision. Let us try to bring our feelings, thoughts, and attention away from the world and into the heart, where the Lord of the universe is awaiting our arrival. The presence of God is always experienced as light. Let us visualize that light today as a beautiful flame, golden orange flame. Not moving, steady, with beautiful perfect shape. This flame, representing the presence of God, does not need any fuel to burn, does not emit any smoke from its burning, does not cast any shadow. When we look closer into the inside of the heart, we can see this wonderful golden orange flame emerging into our vision. Slowly bring your mind and thoughts onto the flame. It is there. It is there. We only have to look for it with attention. And a wonderful aura of golden orange brilliance is emerging out of the flame. And has filled our heart. Look closely. In the center of the heart is the flame. Surrounding it, all around in the heart, is that glorious light, wonderful glow, beautiful to experience, filling the whole heart, coming from the flame. Piercing the sides of the heart, the powerful, wonderful radiance coming from the flame, but cool, soothing, strengthening, has come out into the other parts of the body. Feel the cool flow of that energy emerging out of the heart, flowing into every part of the body. Feel it flowing slowly into the right leg, filling it up to the tips of the toes. The golden glow of energy is flowing into the left leg, filling it to the tips. The right arm is getting filled with that glorious brilliance. The radiance is now filling the left arm up to the tips of the fingers. The golden radiance coming out of the heart is flowing into all parts of the trunk of the body. And now it's flowing into the head, filling every part of it. The lobes of the ears, up to the tip of the nose. Our whole body is now filled with that golden radiance. Coming from that wonderful flame of light, love and life that has become visible. The presence of God become visible because of our yearning to see it. There is nothing else in the body, only that golden radiance from the tip of the head up to the toes. Then through every pore of the body, It is slowly coming out. And like a thin film, it's hovering around the body. You feel its cool touches on your cheeks, on your forehead, on your hands, arms. The whole body is enveloped within that thin film of radiance. The power of God, the love of God, the peace of God. Filling the whole body. It has come out and enveloped within its arms a whole physical body. We feel a lightness, a coolness, a sense of peace, at the same time a sense of power existing within the body and around it. It is there even if we feel it or not. See it. It has filled the whole body. It has surrounded the whole body. See that. And we remain in that beautiful feeling and experience for a few minutes of silence. Hari Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace.